For those of you who don't know, he is an ex-teammate of mine, one of my quote-unquote favorite teammates. I'll just put quotes around that to not offend anybody else and, not boost his ego too much.
I'm telling 72 hours and Poach.
Oh, gosh, don't.
I'm letting him know. I'm going to be like, listen, Vivid's ditching you guys for Chap. He said you guys are the worst. But no. Speaking of Chap, man, got to kind of tune in with him for a second as they load into the battle bus. But, man, this is going to be interesting, right? Like we mentioned before, we've been able to cast over this EU action. And we've seen the way that Europe plays as a region in this zero build game mode. But this is our first experience of getting to watch NA East and break it all down for you guys. So there's definitely going to be some different gameplays to the way that this works. But I've already been watching. I already know that a tank is still a huge portion of the gameplay for some of these players.
Yeah, and you know what? Panda is also a little bit new. Kind of returning to the game is the Porter Rifts, and we've already seen some very cool, unique interactions with those. Like, I saw Chap and Degen. They actually liked to, chill out in their truck that they would find, and then they would just use the Porter Rift whenever they were in bad situations, and it would just bring the truck up with them as well. So there were a couple instances with that. But, another one of those items that does a pretty good job of keeping these players safe, right? You just float all the way up into the sky. But, I'm going to go retract my statement, right? And I'm going to put quotations around safe, right? Because we saw in the end games, these players are so good. We had the likes of Threats and a Macwood. I believe it was game number 1, showcasing their aim when Chap and Degen actually were up in the sky using that Porter Rift. They just got shot right out of the sky. So you are not safe up there at all.
You're definitely not. And you're also not safe if you're on the other end or the receiving end of Cease with an Anvil launcher. And that's what we see there, automatically just hopping up on the roof there, trying to take some shots at an opposing team there up on the hill. It's actually Sujay trying to just loot there in the distance. But listen, if you're around Cease, man, you already know he's good at getting those tags. So he's definitely going to be looking to engage there. Just like we see this team here, trying to utilize the rifts as much as possible. One shot left, 1 HP in a dream. But YouTube, Tessie, if they have anything to say about it, they're going to try to take him out in the sky. And they do. Gets the knock there onto Trick. Now 1 player remaining. It's a 2v1. Flappy just trying to run away, hoping that the overshield will be enough to hold him back, but it's not. Sky Tommy takes out Flappy, and that's going to be sending them back to the lobby in this game.
We actually just saw those 2 eliminations there, but Tommy at the end there and TC, they actually have a total of 4 eliminations, so there was actually even more action going on before we actually got to tune in there. So those guys are starting this game off already with 12 points.
12 points to start the game. Listen, that's a solid start, but you got to stay in it, right? Obviously, we've seen how aggression in the early game can obviously reward players, but we've also seen players like Noah Riley and Vidil struggle when they have that early aggressive mindset in play. So I'm interested to see how it's going to affect them, just like I'm interested to see how it's going to affect Fatch and Carry here in the tank, immediately just moseying on through, looking for any opposing players that they can. I actually had a recent conversation here with Fatch, and we talked a little bit about zero build, and he's definitely been obviously a huge competitive player for a long time. However, zero build has definitely piqued his interest as well.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the case for everybody. I mean, zero build is just so fun. It's kind of hard to ignore the game mode, right? You have to play it. It's way too fun. Obviously, we talk about it a lot, how a lot of these players are professional players. They did make a name for themselves with building in Fortnite, so that is kind of like what they do, what they practice, what they scrim on and everything like that. But, this as a fun game mode to do, and also with the introduction of this game mode, there's been so many tournaments that ignoring it would kind of seem like you were just hurting yourself at that point, because it's just fun. There's been so many tournaments. It's just really, really beneficial. So if these players are playing 8 to 10 hours a day, they might be starting to split up those hours between building and no build, because I just don't see a reason why not.
I don't either. Look, Vivid, I think this is the sign. You got to come out of retirement, represent the casters here, go zero build mode, and just take it home. Because realistically, it's all about aim, and that's why we see players like Knight, who's a veteran in this space, just deleting Larson there, taking off that shield and the overshield. TK, though, going to stop the aggression there in the distance and keep Knight at bay for now as they try to rotate away. The shots are raining in. Shield broken again. Will they be able to get away the truck? The truck's barely holding on here as far as health goes. So it's going to be close, and there it is. The knock onto Larson. Knight, Rogue Shark immediately going to push here and just try to get involved with this action. Honestly, great play from them. TK, I think it's all up to you now.
Yeah, it looks like TK is just going to be dipping out, leaving Larson behind. And, you know, shout out to Knight and Rogue Shark. These guys, at one point, were very, very dominant. I don't remember the exact season, but I remember their low ground play just being something that everybody was afraid of. And they were just so dominant over the course of like 2 seasons. I believe it was the season that introduced all of the water, actually, if anybody remembers that, where all like the sharks came into play. And they were just so good during like a stretch of like 2 seasons. But ever since, you know, a little bit of slow approach to these tournaments for them, but they have stuck together. You know, we always talk about how Dubs and Mega have been together for so long. Rogue Shark and Knight, you know, not as long as them, but they might be like the second longest lasting duo on the NA East region.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right, and it's kind of nice to see duos come back into play here as a competitive game mode, because we get to see some of these players that we kind of spent a lot of time with in years past coming back together to say, you know what, we got the chemistry, we can make some big things happen. But speaking of big things happening, it's Dictating and Gandhi just trying to get away from what looks like D-Roller and Inpin. If you know anything about D-Roller and Inpin, they do not miss. So this is a great duo to see in this competition, but not a great duo to run into for sure.
And I love to be able to speak on my like player experiences, and D-Roller is actually somebody that I actually trioed with. It was me, Calazo, and D-Roller.
Okay.
It was actually, I think it was like one of my last teams that I actually played with before I stopped playing competitively. But D-Roller is so good. Let me tell you, like, he is very smart. He knows how to like follow. Obviously, he was sort of like the fragger on the team, and then me and Calazo were the leads and like tarping and everything like that. But giving D-Roller space in any way, shape, or form, like, would it give him like 5 seconds and just like a little bit of space, and he was getting elimination in the end game. Like, it was crazy. He would just find and wouldn't even really need any help. So very, very strong player. Just to back up the point that you made there about him not missing, he can find these eliminations very, very fast.
Yeah, and that's what's important here. I think a lot of players, they dive into zero build and they're like, oh, it's just going to be like me playing competitive. It's fine. I know how to rotate. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. But in reality, rotating is very, very different. It's not the same as your traditional competitive mode. You obviously can build in your traditional competitive mode to kind of defend as you rotate around. Here, you need to be a lot more mindful about the natural cover as you make your way into zone. So it's definitely a different game mode, to say the least, but for players like D-Roller, like you mentioned, so good at getting eliminations. And I gotta say, he's definitely, in my opinion, one of the best when it comes to aim on the NA East region. So impressive start here from them, and they're going to keep that ball rolling. But no, in the elimination feed, Chap taking himself out. What is going on?
Wow, I wonder how that happened. Honestly, that popping up like that in an elimination feed, usually you see like a falling symbol or something like that if they go down to fall damage, but I'm not sure how he could have eliminated himself just like that. So hopefully DGen is still alive. Maybe gets a reboot going on, because they are contested or uncontested over at Rocky Reels. So if that is still the case, then they might have a little bit of room to work with, maybe to get that res. But maybe Chap was like the last standing member of their duo, and he kind of went down in some way, shape, or form. But interesting development. No, because there's an actual symbol for Storm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how that could happen with the little crosshair symbol up there. That's interesting. But nonetheless, Ocus and Nut, who have doing very, very well coming into today, they were actually at the top of the leaderboard with a 61-point gap.
That's a lead, to say the least.
A little bit.
But will they be able to maintain it? That's the question, because so far it's not going in their favor, right?
For Ocus and Nut?
Yeah. What's their lead right now? Do they still have the lead?
I don't know what their lead is right now, because I don't believe that we got to see the leaderboard after that last game. But I do know that, coming into today, they had a 61-point lead.
Oh man, like that is substantial. Obviously, we've seen a pretty interesting lead there when it came to the MENA region, but honestly, for NA, these players are so close in talent, it's hard to just run away with it like that. So for Okus and Nut to be that consistent going into the day, this might be their competition to walk away with. But it looks like, surprisingly enough, Larson somehow got back into the game. Fortunate for him, but unfortunate for TK, because it looks like it was at the expense of TK that he got back in. But now, though, Larson trying to exchange with Okus, and that's just not going to work, man. Listen, anytime you're trying to 1v1 a tank, it's just not going to go in your favor, and we saw it there. But Okus not going to hold on to the tank. Still very, very healthy there. Does have a gas can as well, so going to be able to keep that tank alive here for the moment. But Rhythm, Assassin there in the distance. Lots of players just staying up, staying alive. Jaith, though, I got to talk about it. Watched him play in a collegiate event recently. Exceptional performance, came top 3. Now he's here trying his hand at zero build, and I'm curious to see how well he does.
Yeah, I remember Jaith from when I was playing. I believe that we were actually contesting each other at one point. So that was...
Oh, man, some bad blood, maybe?
Listen, I'm past all that now. Maybe I was a little mad in the moment or something like that, but, bygones be bygones, all that. But he was always very, very consistent in the scrims. Like, whenever he would make it off spawn, he would do very, very well after, eliminating my team, which, let's not highlight that at all. I'm just going to go ahead and say that I won off spawn every time. I'm saying hypothetically, if he were to eliminate us and get off spawn, he would probably do pretty consistent.
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, listen, consistency is rewarded in every game mode, right? That's obviously why Nut and Co are doing so well. But for players like Rotten Twinkies here and Jack is Godly, they're looking to change the pace here a bit. But no, as I switch over, we were just talking about Nut and Okus, and sure enough, the rain continues here as they wipe Cease's team, but not without the expense of Okus going down. So it's going to be interesting to see if Nut can get Okus back into this game. But with all that stuff on the ground there and a tank, I think this game could still go in their favor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, already 5 eliminations, right? Like 15 points already up on the board for them. Even if Nut were to go down right now, like he would still have a pretty good amount of points. So anything that you can go ahead and gather as a solo will be very beneficial for them. But, as you mentioned, the tank there, pretty safe in the driver's seat. He's got Shockwave, he's got Rift to goes. I mean, he can definitely put up a good performance here as a solo. Just unfortunate situation for Heed and Cease there. And it's very interesting. We talk about how we haven't seen many shotguns in this notebook because you usually don't close that gap. But Nut actually had a shotgun in this situation, so it's just very, very unlucky for Cease to kind of find himself in a close combat situation where he has to go up against that shotgun.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I mean, look, it's not as lethal as going up against that legendary anvil launcher if you're a tank, though. So it's nice to see that NA East taking advantage of it. They understand the value in having that in their inventory, and they're going to use it. So hopefully we'll see a very different in game than what we've proceeded to see in EU. A lot less vehicles, but looking at the elimination feed, it looks like your boy Chap somehow, some way has gotten back into the game.
Listen, I don't know what was going on up there in the elimination feed. Me and you were trying to figure it out, couldn't figure it out, but he's alive at some point in time. Something weird happened, but that is very, very good to see an action elimination on AV, who is an ex-teammate of his, so that's a little funny there. But hopefully Chap and DGen are both alive. As I say that, D-Roller takes up Chap, so I believe that's Panda's fault for casting him. I wasn't mentioning him at all. Wasn't me.
Oh, man, and look, as you say it, see, you talked about Chap, and Chap goes down. It's the caster curse, folks. It happens. Listen, when we talk about players, occasionally, it lines up with them getting eliminated. But I don't see Rhythm here getting eliminated because the pressure from this tank just relentlessly going in as Assassin, also providing some cover fire there with the tank itself. So, man, this is going to be a tough duo to go up against, especially after Jaith has now lost their tank. So Jaith is not only down, but the tank is out. So Kurt, by himself, trying to stay alive here, trying to just sneak through this little fossil structure here and stay alive. But Rhythm says, no, I'm not going to let it happen. You cannot escape me. I will find you.
Actually opts the shockwave away. Very smart by Kurt. Rhythm's still going to try to fire in some shots there as he is retreating, but handing over to Mac would actually do it. That's been doing very, very well. Alongside Threats takes out D-Roller. They already have 3 eliminations, and Threats actually holding this mythic burst rifle, so that is very, very good. You can see how much damage this thing can put out. Great shots from Threat there, actually right under the truck, even alongside that cow catcher being there. You mentioned it before. They got to be careful when you are maneuvering around these structures. Even though you are behind cover, it's very, very easy to find angles, and Threats is actually going to be putting down so much damage that Jamper and Dukes are going to have to use their Rift to go, but they are not safe in the air at all. And alongside Threats, I believe that was Curbs off in the distance putting down some shots as well, and they are going to be finding the eliminations, unfortunately, there on Jamper and Dukes.
Yeah, great eliminations on their part. And they're going to be able to stay in it. But speaking of people that aren't going to be able to stay in it, it's Janman being taken out by Kurt. So Kurt still in this. That shockwave play he made has kept him alive despite losing Jate there just moments ago. And a nice little cleanup on top of the elimination. It's always good, obviously, to get those elimination points, but it's also equally important to make sure that you are getting the refreshes that come with that elimination. And that's what we see there. And fortunately, it's going to result in a Rift to Go being there as well. A Rift to Go, man, listen, is actually kind of interesting to watch in this format, because we haven't seen it leading up to this, but since it's unvaulting and the community voting for it back in the game, it's definitely going to play an impact in these zero build competitions.
Yeah, it is one of those like, hey, let's use this as a quick escape. But you know, we just saw an instance where Jamper Dukes use it as a quick escape, but it's just not enough in those situations to actually get you out of those situations, because you are left in such a vulnerable state. As Macwood and Threats are putting down some fire here onto Rhythm, and I believe Assassin, they tried to make a push because they were doing a lot of damage to Threats, but Macwood holding it down. He does get the knock on Assassin, and Rhythm lets to do it as a solo. Going to try to fend off against Macwood, who does have the tank advantage. And no, he is no longer interested in taking that duel, and he's going to use that Rift to go. He's just going to be floating around as we see Macwood and Threats both alive. Not necessarily the healthiest duo in the server, but they're going to use that tank, a little bit of cover, throw down some chug splashes, repair their tank, kind of do a full reset before they face off against the rest of the lobby here, as the end game is approaching very, very quickly.
The end game is approaching as these players continue to fall at the hands of Threats, because Narwhal goes down. Another knock here for Threats and Macwood. This is going to be a lethal duo as this competition continues. I can't imagine what these players are thinking. You just see Macwood, you see Threats in the elimination feed non-stop, and he does end up getting the full elimination onto Narwhal and Shades. So that's going to be 2 going down there. And no, with 3, Daddy goes down as well. Threats, listen, I don't know what you're on today, but keep it up, man.
That mythic burst rifle combined with the aim of Threats is going to be putting Threats and Macwood at a combined 8 eliminations already, so they can find even like more, right? Like they are already top 6, already have 8 eliminations. Like this is a no 9 elimination. He picks up 1 somehow during just me talking about him. So he really is just laying down so much fire right now. This is amazing to watch.
It is. It's amazing to watch, and it's actually amazing to watch all these solo players as well continue to survive. Players like Kurt still in it for minutes, which is not something solo players can often say in competitive Fortnite. So it's exciting to see how these solo players continue to thrive in a lobby. But when Macwood and Threats have their eyes set on the prize of winning, it's going to be a GG's, especially for any other tanks in the lobby, as that is the last tank other than Macwood and Threats. So they're going to keep it going. They're going to keep the momentum moving forward. Players are dwindling down, and Macwood and Threats are on the hunt for some more eliminations as this game starts to finish out.
I love this right now. You can see Macwood's actually in the driver's seat of the tank, and usually when we have a duo alive, one of them's in the driver's seat and the other one's in the turret seat. But Threats is like, no, I am putting in so much work right now with this burst rifle that I am just going to stay out of the tank, and you can go ahead and use the missiles that come out of the tank, and I'm just going to put down shots with the burst rifle, and look how well it is working, right? Like, he has this mobile cover that he can use, and he can just kind of peek out whenever he sees fit, and it's working very, very well right now for Macwood and Threats. And there you see, you know, Macwood gets a clean shot with that tank now, and now Carry is left over there as a solo, and then one more player in the sky as a solo as well. No, Carry actually does work, takes out Kurt out of the sky. Now Carry left to try to clutch it up, but no, Macwood and Threats end this game with 13 eliminations, Panda.
Woo. 13 eliminations to clean it all up.